Oh,
Okay.
Spike.
We're
how are we?
hello, hello. I guess I don't know if I'm bigger than you guys on everyone's screen, but it seems a little unfair. But I guess
You're
Antonio,
covered with all the quote, with all the messages.
what'd you say?
I don't know if it's just on my screen, but like all the messages seem to be all over my little bit.
Oh,
You're on a different side from my point of view, so I think it depends who's looking at it. Uh,
I don't mind.
but but anyway, and Antonio will be joining us in a second. So, question. So we've got a cool set of punk drummers here. Like Adam, do you know Spike? Like, what is your friendship? How did is this a professional friendship, or have you guys actually been on a stage together ever?
yeah. So Spike and I, and I'm sure Spike remembers this, we met officially at Rebellion. And this was what, 3 years ago,
Right?
Spike?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I see a post come up actually. It was like an anniversary, probably yesterday. So
Yeah.
a post came up, and it was the photo of us all outside. You know, the back entrance to Rebellion, where everybody goes to, you know, smoke cigarettes and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and try and sneak
Yeah.
their guests in. So
Yeah. So we
So,
all hung out in the back, and we've seen each other a couple times at Rebellion, and that's where we've really chatted in person and hung out.
wait,
And
and who were you playing with at Rebellion, Spike, at that time?
well, that year, let me think. That year, I don't think I was playing. I just went to spectate. So I've kind of got a long history with Rebellion over the years, Ari. You know, so it's like I've played there with many different acts. But that year, I wasn't playing. But often, if I'm not playing, I'll still try and go for a day or two. You know.
Okay, because I have to say,
In fact, once, and maybe Adam doesn't remember this, I actually got up and sang a song with the Dickies.
oh really?
Yeah,
When Leonard was ill.
Did they?
yeah, it was.
Were you trying to replace the singer officially? Was this a drummer getting too big for his britches, too big for his drum kit?
Well, it wasn't that. Yeah, it wasn't that far off. It was probably more drummer bravado, because the Dickies were in a tricky situation where they were singerless. And Adam will obviously be able to tell you more about it, but they were basically hunting for really singers to, you know, that might know a song or two, so that they could still commit to playing, you know. And you know, so they had people like, you know, different people, as you know, Adam will remember. And I happened to be on the side of the stage while they were pulling it together. And I said, you know, I know a song. And somebody turned to me and said, well, what song do you know? And I said, Wagon Train. And they were like, well, can you really sing it? And I was like, yeah, I'll be able to do it. And so they put me down, because I suppose it was a more unusual choice, you know, and it was, you know, part of the set, rather than me saying, you know, Fan Mail or one of the obvious ones where they'd probably have 10 people who'd want to sing it. And so they put me down. And then not long before I came up, before it was my turn to come on, I thought, what am I doing? I'm not a singer. Yo, why am I putting my name up for this? I don't know what I'm doing. And then, you know, I had a couple more drinks, and I thought, I've seen enough of these singers, you know, what they do. You know, I'll be able to do it. And I went on, and it was a real buzz.
I mean, that's how Henry Rollins got into Black Flag, right? He like stumbled on
Yeah.
stage in some gig and made it happen.
That's right.
Yeah, he was always at the gigs, and one day they just called him up. He had to get up there.
Yeah. Well, do you know, there's a funny story with that I seen recently, and this is some of the fact the last time I played in Rebellion was with this guy HR from Bad Brains. Apparently he told Henry he was a singer, and you know, Henry said no, I've never sang, and the HR person says, no, Henry, you're a singer, and give him a mic. And he had to sing with Bad Brains. That was before Black Flag.
Oh, wait. Oh, so this is way back when you're talking about.
This is way before he even formed his own band. You know, he must have sort of been at a Bad Brains show when this little thing happened. So, Yeah, and I've seen him, you know, like retelling that story very recently, you know, in an interview, saying, you know, and I don't think it was even an interview about him singing. It was one of his other things. But they happened to ask, "Oh, how did you get into singing?" And he said, "Well, says, you know, the funny story is I was never thinking I was going to be a singer." And you know, and he just told the story, you know, about HR kind of, you know, telling him he's going to be a singer.
Well, okay, so talk a little bit about this thing of like being a journeyman performer, whether it's a drummer or singer, as we talked about. I mean, you know, Adam, you know, you had in your life when you joined the Dickies. I mean, Spike, excitement and talking about New York KROLL obviously is like an insane band to play with, but like, you know, I know your history. You played with Morrissey, and you also played with a Chinese pop star, which I want to hear about. I want to hear about the Chinese pop star. But so how do you guys playing when you're, you know, I assume both of you come from like a punk motivated background, but then you branch out into other things too. And so, well, I guess I'd love to hear from Adam, like about joining the Dickies, what that experience was like.
Okay, so I'll make a long story short. So I was just fresh out of MI, so I got my percussion degree in music school out in Hollywood, and as soon as I got out of there, I started teaching drums, but I wanted to tour, right? So I found a band on Craigslist looking for a drum, and we went out to Europe, paid nothing, I actually paid money to do the tour, right? So
amazing. Like got toured Europe off of a Craigslist ad. That already is kind of amazing. I thought you were going to say, you know, there's a Craigslist ad, you know, Jimmy Page looking for someone, and I toured.
Yeah, and that's how I've got other gigs or just good things. It's weird. You just go to Craigslist and you end up finding it as long as you're searching and searching. But yeah, I got that tour under my belt through Craigslist, through a band called Bloodhook in LA. Hard workers, and they happen to know and already kind of be punched into the LA scene with punk bands. So even though they weren't an old band or historic classic punk band, they were always working, they were always playing, and they'd always jump on bills with other historic punk bands. So that kind of created a connection. So anyway, I played with them for a couple years. All of a sudden, a band called DI from SoCal, an older punk rock band, needed a drummer. They knew the band I was in. They called them up and said, "Hey, we need a drummer for a night, man. Can we borrow your drummer?" And they're like, "Yeah, cool." So to me, I was over the moon just being able to sub, you know, play for DI for one night. And a year later, the bass player Eddie called me back and said, "Hey, man, it's been a while. Do you got a passport?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Can you tour?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I got you an audition for the Dickies because our drummer's on the way out." So that was kind of how I got the shoe in there. And I had already grew up being a fan of the Dickies, being a fan of stuff Spike's been in, and even Antonio, you know, that's going to be joining us in a few minutes. I've always been a fan of like TSOL. So I grew up with metal and punk, and then going to that school, I kind of broadened my technical skills with like the touch of R&B, you know, like having a certain touch with R&B and different stuff like that.
I mean, that's an interesting thing to like, you know, learn metal and punk in school. I mean, what did you learn in school that, I guess you said technique, but like, it's a bizarre thing to me somehow. Like, I mean, maybe as a professional air drummer who I never went to school for it, I feel like there's maybe a stigma against like studying the craft, but like
there kind of is. I mean, there kind of is, but there's a lot of us, like especially Spike. Like Spike does drum educational videos, and he teaches and I teach. So like we're well aware of maybe within music fans or the punk scene of just purely fans, there is a stigma. There can be a stigma of, you know, "Oh, dude, you go to that school or you go to music school, you're going to come out a robot and blah, blah, blah." And I get that because some people do, and I'm sure Spike would agree with that. But there's some people like me and Spike and others where when you go into that game, you already know what you want to get out of it. So it doesn't completely transform you. You just end up gaining an arsenal of skill rather than walking in there and being molded and formed and then being spat back out.
Right, right. So then you can call on these different skills based on who you end up with.
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense. I mean, I made my air drumming official by entering the Guinness Book of World Records. So some would say that was a sellout, but to actually teach people skills. So when I did the Guinness record event, which is it actually happened. I mean, this is so bizarre, but it's actually a part of my life. I had to teach 2,300 people certain air drum moves in order to qualify. So they had to have an air drum expert. So I was the expert, and then I had to teach moves to, the plebeians, the new air drum there. So and they wanted me to combine a couple different bands, and there had to be an AC/DC reference because the house band at this casino where we did it was DC cover band. So I incorporated some Neil Peart and some Phil Rudd and Tommy Lee and a few other things. But I hear, by the way, speaking of Neil Peart, Spike, that I know that Neil was a big influence on you. Did you ever get to meet him, work with him?
I never did, and that's a real shame on my part. I got quite close at once because I went to one of their shows and I got invited to go to the show by the sound man, and he did get me a pass, but not to actually go to dressing rooms or whatever, but to go to see him, at the desk. And I knew the venue. It was a place called, it's Birmingham in the UK, and it's got a big, arena. And they were playing it, and as they were playing, I thought I'd been there before, and I've got a story that's to do with Eric Clapton with the same venue, but a different time. And I thought, well, I know the venue, so I thought I'm going to see if this pass will get me, behind, where can I get to the backstage area? Anyway, I went and I got on and Rush were playing, how they used to do 2 sets for a number of, they're not final years, but probably the past 15 years or something, they did 2. So they must have been in their first set. Anyway, I went and I thought, God, if I walk this way and do here and go down there, I'm sure I'll end up behind the stage. And I literally did this and went through some curtains. And just not more than about 7 or 8 feet in front of me, was Neil. I was so close I could see his stand shaking when he hit a cymbal.
Well,
that was, that's as close as I got to him. I mean, it was an amazingly,
okay.
I probably got closer to what I wanted to see watching him play but unfortunately I never met him.
You're standing behind him. You're close to his set. Did you start air drumming?
No, do you know why? Because I was hiding, because I wasn't supposed to be there.
And your fingers didn't do
I'll tell you what was going. My foot, because there was a pattern that I loved in the song La Villa Strangiato, and I never quite figured out. I thought I could hear this funny little ghost note on the hi-hat, which kind of sounds a bit odd. But, and I sort of think I can hear something. But when I played it, it never sounded right. And I happened to be behind it, they're playing it. And I seen that he played the note with his hand and then with his foot. So I immediately was probably trying to learn that. So my air drumming was probably more like... And then I got spotted. And, somebody came by one of their crew.
Right, okay.
And he came to me and he said to me, he goes, "What the hell are you doing here?" I don't think that he could believe that somebody was there, that wasn't part of the internal clan.
How'd you answer?
Sorry? I said, I'm here with Brad. That's the sound man. I said, I'm here with Brad, I'm just here with Brad.
Good answer.
Come and have a little look.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, you better go because you're sure as hell I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I went. So that's my little Neil Peart story.
Well, when I did my drum off with him promoting our movie Adventures of Power, I got to be right next to his kit while he plays Sawyer, and I play air drum Tom Sawyer right next to him, and then collapsed, and I collapsed from my head right against the kick drum. So I feel like there are weirdos all over the world who resented me for having that privilege. You know, that one day they would air drum next to Neil Peart and he would say, "Nice job," you know, which he said to me. But so he was a big influence on me as a sort of wannabe drummer, as an air drummer, and obviously if you've seen Adventures of Power, he's, you know, central to the movie. Both, you know, he's like the religious figure in the movie.
You know, I think in a way, Ari, you know, he has started any kind of air drumming phenomenon, because although people have always done it, it seemed to come to the forefront about him and his parts, because they were so recognizable, and more so because they were so composed and clear. You know, you don't have to be a drummer. You've kind of got that idea, you know, you know. And I mean, other drummers have it too, like maybe Phil Collins and, you know, and whatnots, and, you know, and probably even Dave Grohl with the band, you know, now.
Phil Collins is in the movie.
You know, like that was all being built. Yeah, okay. So I think, but, you know, Neil Peart seemed to have like lots of them. That's the thing. So it always became a rite of passage, didn't it? Go to a Rush concert and air drum, you know?
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know if you've heard this question before. It was garbage, so I'm going to just change the subject just because I find it so fascinating that you played for a Chinese pop star. I really want to hear what that was like, how that happened. Maybe compare working with a Chinese pop star to working with Morrissey. Like,
yeah, well,
probably the same, right?
Yeah, that was I Ching, and I was never really aware of her popularity, because her popularity really was, you know, like in China. But I was working in London with a band, and it was just one of those things where one of the members of the band, do you know the band Gang of Four?
Yeah, of course.
You know, yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, that, you know, well, it was one of the members of Gang of Four was managing, and it was to do with him. He somehow sort of hooked us up. And sorry?
He was managing the Chinese pop star?
Well, or somebody had got in touch, you know, with him. What she was looking for, she wanted to come over.
Connection?
She wanted to come over to the UK. She wanted to come over to the UK and work with British musicians. That seemed to be, you know, what she was looking for. So she, you know, she came over. We were booked into a pretty nice, lavish studio in London. You know, one of the, you know, real pro ones. And she just came with, like, she really is like a kind of an acoustic artist, or certainly that's how she starts with the songs. You know, like a lot do. But she really seemed to be pushing that she wanted this, you know, like a British feel and vibe. And probably, when you mentioned in the Morrissey thing, that probably would have been something that she would have, or people around her would have liked, you know, because he is or was so, you know, quintessentially British, you know.
Right.
It wasn't that different, actually, because I'd not long been working with Morrissey. I took a lot of the feels from my point that I thought, you know, were inherent to his songs, and put them as suggestions to the songs I worked on with her. But I wasn't the only one, of course. There was a whole band that was working with her, trying to shape these songs up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything of that for a good 15 years. And then recently I found a video of it on YouTube, as you do.
Well, you found a video with you in it, or just
no, just of, you know, this, you know, one of the songs that we did that she obviously put out as a single, I guess, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you know, she's obviously this big Chinese artist that had come to work with British musicians, and the song we did was called New York. So,
you know,
it's like,
it's all part of England in her in her mind.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You know, so yeah, yeah. So it's like,
York,
yeah.
Old York, New York, Yorkshire, like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. You know,
Yeah.
a strange turn of events in life. Um, so, and Adam, I'd love to talk with you. Like, you know, you've played with like the adolescents as well too, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct.
And are you like now exclusively with the Dickies, or you like still do journeyman stuff like Chinese pops?
Yeah, well, I actually still do both. So yeah, I'm exclusively with the Dickies, and it's been almost a decade now. So I joined in 2013. So it's almost been a decade, and I still do journeyman stuff here and there. I played with DI like a couple weeks ago.
Tell us a weird job you've had as a drummer, you know, along the lines of what Spike did. What's the weirdest drum job you've had?
The weirdest drum job? I think I've got a couple of offers that were not weird, but they just kind of seemed too weird for me. Because I don't think I've really gotten a weird drum job, to be honest with you. I've never had anything that's like, what? I'm doing what? Where?
Up to Spike, I mean, Spike's kind of outclassing you with this Chinese pop star stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Morrissey Chinese pop star connection is
that's pretty rad.
A little more legit.
Well,
like you got
I do have one that's super cool. I wouldn't consider it weird, but maybe weird to other people, or unique, I guess. The Dickies, a few years ago, we actually teamed up with the composer to Killer Clowns from Outer Space that wrote the score and everything, John Massari. Okay. And what we did was we actually did a live score to film showing of the movie. So what that was literally people came to the theater out in LA. It was called the Montalban Theater, I think it was. They came out to see the movie, and underneath the screen was the entire orchestra, the Hollywood Chamber Orchestra, that played along to the movie, played the whole score. And the Dickies were there for the beginning, because if you know the movie or if you've watched the movie, the Dickies have that song, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and it plays in the opening credits of that movie, and also plays at the end. So we were also there as special guests, and we played along to the screen, to the movie at the same time. So that was unique, maybe not weird, but super fun. That was really cool.
Okay. Well,
that's brilliant.
I think that's a legit answer. That's.
I've got a good story with an orchestra.
What was that, Spike?
I've got an interesting story. I'll tell you like quickly with an orchestra. I got invited to they needed, like, you know, well, you know, as a, you know, a drummer, well, with an orchestra, they don't really want drummers, they want percussion players, so it's covering anything that's within it, you know. And there was a composer that, you know, is somewhere local, somewhat local to the region that I live in, and they needed some extra percussionists. So they, you know, somebody got in touch with me, can you do it? I was like, yeah, you know, send me the score. But of course, you know, I can read a bit, but not to that extent.
Yeah, man. You know? You say yes first, and you figure it out later. That's how it goes.
And you know, this thing had, like, you know, like however many, but like, you know, 2,000 bars or something. It was quite a long piece. And so I went for the afternoon, and we didn't rehearse everything because, you know, there was like an 80-piece choir that went there. So, but the conductor wanted to go through a few, you know, like sort of segments. Anyway, we went through it, and he sort of said, right, like, we're going to start this from, you know, bar 322. So, you know, you're looking through your pages. Anyway, so I did it, and I figured those bits out. Anyway, I thought, Jesus, I've really got my work cut out. And I went home, and I looked, and I thought, some of these parts, it's like, there was one part I remembered, like, which was a triangle part. Now, everybody always makes the joke about the triangle, don't they? Oh, I can't play anything. I'll play the triangle. So, you know, anyway, so I looked at it, I thought, yeah, okay, this part doesn't come up to, like, you know, bar 750 or something. So I've done other little bits, a little bit of snare drum in here, you know, like a little bit of sound effect stuff there, some cymbal washes here. And you know, you have to count all the way through. You know, you have to know where you are. Nobody's telling you you know, right, you're on to 800, bar 840 or whatever. You've got to know where you are. You're counting all the way through, following the notes. And I came up to the triangle bit, and the triangle bit, you know, should have been on the offbeat. So, it's kind of like, you know, the beat is kind of, I should have gone with a triangle. Ding, 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 you know, on the offbeat. But when I came up to it, I just went ding, 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 ding. and I remember thinking, I've got the triangle bit wrong. And I was telling people, I was telling people about it after, and they was, you know, they said that no one had noticed, and I thought the composer who's in the audience would have noticed. and this performance was for him. You know, I mean, there was a whole audience there, but it was about, you know, the grand performance of his piece.
The triangle was like the whole instrument of the whole, and you messed it up.
That was the apex of the performance, was the triangle, and you fucked up, buddy.
I messed it up. I messed it up. I messed it up royally, as we might say.
Yeah. Well,
I couldn't have got him all wrong.
Wait, so why did you play? Wait, you didn't see that it was an offbeat, or you figured it out at the moment it was happening?
No, I did, but it was just kind of, you know, like with all the reading and the, you know, just the pressure of it all and everything. I probably misheard with it. I was trying to follow a conductor, which I wasn't used to, you know, and it was just, you know, I was a fish out of water, you know, so.
Yeah, well, admirable to go into triangle.
Yeah.
You start with alternative attack, and then you end up playing the triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, illustrious history. If when you formed alternative attack, you knew that later on you would be playing triangle in orchestra, how would you have felt?
Ooh, it's hard to sort of think back with that young lad in alternative attack would make of the triangle.
Yeah.
I'd have probably lobbed it across the room. I'd have probably lobbed it at the conductor. That's what I'd have probably done.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, messing up is a wonderful experience in life, like as a drummer. And also, I mean, it's harder when it's scripted, you know, orchestral music, but I know when I played music, when you make a mistake and then you do it again in the next bar to make the listener think.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
So directing a scene for a movie, like, you know, you can embarrass yourself in front of an audience later. You can embarrass yourself in front of the actors. Or when I was playing power in the movie and air drumming, I had actually my air drumming was pretty spot on, but I would sometimes, like, I fell over a few times. I broke my arm on set while I was laugh, which messed up. I mean, then we had to like delay the rest of the shoot for 6 months because it's hard to air drum with a broken arm. But you can use mistakes. I mean, mistakes can be great tools to make, you know, more. And actually, when I did shoot a few scenes with the broken arm, and one of the funniest little gag movie, I think, is, I don't know if you guys have seen Adventures of Power yet, but there's a scene where my character has just had a heart-to-heart with Michael McKean, with my dad, and he's encouraging me to keep going, and I'm inspired to tear off my sweatpants, and I wanted to do this like glorious thing where like I tear them off and they just fly off of my
at the payphone, right?
At the payphone, yeah. But it was written that I would tear them off, but my arm was broken 48 hours before we shot that scene because we postponed but there were a few locations that were like, we locked down this location by this ship, and we're like, we have to shoot it. So I went with a cast, and if you look at the movie, I'm wearing a sweater, and you can see the cast actually out. And I hang up the phone. Okay. I still wanted to have this moment of my like we're on set. I tried to grab them, and my arm was in such pain because the break was really fresh. I couldn't close my hand to tear the sweatpants off. So quickly, I was like, "All right, let's strap the sweatpants to the payphone with a wire, and then cut them on the side and put Velcro on it. And then I'll run away from the phone, and they'll just pop off magically." Much better joke, because like I start running away from the phone, and then the sweatpants just kind of like, they just like
yeah.
stop. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And then I keep running, and it was,
Yeah,
you know, it was a great. It's kind of like, okay, what do you do with the mistake? What do you do with the problem? And,
yeah. Well, that moment in the movie is it's really, it's funny, and at the same time, it's one of the scenes where it's like, it's funny and it didn't make sense in that moment. But then it makes sense because it actually, you have this serious moving scene, and then all of a sudden that kind of breaks it back into, yeah. So it didn't make sense to the viewer, but it was still funny, and it's still like emotionally it worked.
Yeah, good. It was one of those things like
the film.
Michael McKean is so good in this scene. He's in the hospital, and like we shot that a few months before, and then my scene, and I'm like, I'm on painkillers, I'm stressed out, gotta shoot quickly before we've got to leave this location, and I felt like totally bring the emotion as well as I wanted to for that scene, but at least the gag works.
Yeah, and Spike, yeah, you got to see that movie, man. It's hilarious. It's great.
Oh,
I mean, it's really funny, but there's these few moments that are just real. They just like hit you. They're real. You know what I mean? But most of it's just really funny.
I think I know it's on Amazon in the States, but I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime also in the UK for free.
Oh,
so,
I'll check it. I'll definitely check it. I'll definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I'm keen to see it.
Yeah, it's Adventures of Power, and if you can't get it on Amazon, go to airdrummer.com, and there's, I think, different links for different countries, and hopefully one of them will work.
Yeah.
And it's great, man.
How were the drummers that you invited to take part on it? Were they kind of supportive? You know, did they enjoy it?
Well, the first, you know, the only drummer who's in the movie appeared, and he was amazing, and he was so such a gentleman, and had such a great sense of humor about it. And, you know, I mean, I didn't know when I wrote a fan letter saying, hey, I'd love you to be in this movie where I play an air drum. I mean, it's like, you have no idea if that letter is going to get to him. And miracle, like it went from my music supervisor to Peggy Caccioni, who is, you know, the kind of anthem day-to-day, or the main manager there. And she armed by the letter and passed it to him, and he said yes. So I was completely shocked that he agreed to be in the movie. And he did say, I mean, you mentioned, you know, about when you sang, you know, on stage excellently, and the thing of like playing when you join another band temporarily or try to collaborate with someone, they want you to do the obscurities. And he was like, do you have to use Tom Sawyer in the movie? You know, he was like, how about using something a little more obscure? Like, I was like, oh, no, I understand, but Tom Sawyer is the song that when I was, whatever I was, you know, 8 years old, like I suddenly, my brain exploded when I heard the song, and I was like, I know it's a cliche, but it is kind of the air drum song that people think of. You know, Collins in the Air Tonight, and that song's in the movie, although Phil wasn't.
Did Neil make a suggestion for another song?
I don't think he did. He just wanted me to like think about maybe doing it. I mean, I did later perform. It's not obscure, but I performed YYZ at a air drum concert in Germany. But obviously, there's tons of songs to choose from. I just chose like the most obvious of obvious. But he went with it, and then like ended up supporting the movie and doing drum off, and so he was amazing. And then, you know, the promoting of the movie at the time, I met some other drummers. I met Todd Sercherman, who then came on this show in March, I think it was. And then there's just been a lot of drummers that I've met through, you know, I didn't have the rights to the movie for a long time. It got bought for almost no money by this like company that went bankrupt, and it was like classic. Just, I mean, you know, you guys, same thing with like, you know, the masters of your recordings. Like you get a fight to get them back, and fighting to get the rights back to the movie. And I finally got the rights back last year. So I, you know, did a little re-release with a new company where we've decided to give the money to MCKEAN. So anyone who watches the movie on Amazon get a few pennies. And if you pay money to buy it on Vimeo, we get a little more money. And we send it to MCKEAN, a great organization that supports musicians in need, helps with addiction issues for some musicians, and it's a good cause. But the re-release was happening around the, you know, while I was planning it, and then when Neil died, you know, it really changed the way I felt about the re-release, and I recut the credits. His name misspelled in the credits, and I wasn't able to, like, on my laptop figure out how to like fix the spelling, which is embarrassing. But he never like gave me shit for that, so I kind of felt all right about it. But anyway, I fixed it in the which I was able to superimpose on it, and so I put a little dedication and in the credits sequence now. But anyway, all of that and like the interviews I did with him on the Vimeo release. So if people spend whatever it is, $10 on Vimeo, they got all these bonuses with Neil. And I think I lost what your other. Oh,
hey guys, I sorry to interrupt, but I think I lost the audio. So I'm gonna skip out and jump right back in. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you guys whatsoever.
Oh, right. Okay.
It just skipped out. But I'm gonna jump out and come right back in, see what happens.
I'll watch.
Okay.
Back in. So yeah, and then recently I've had, you know, we had Dave Lombardo on the show. We've had I mean, amazing people. Charlie Benante.
Brilliant.
It's a big list of people who have joined recently. So
yeah, well, I'm you know, made up. I'm really pleased to be here.
Hold on, he's coming back. Okay. By the way, did it work? Are we talking about promoting our music? I'm just reading some of the questions now. Adam, did you get it? Did it work?
Yeah, I think I can hear you guys now.
You guys switch.
Here we are, mate. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I see a question. Are you talking about promoting your music? I would assume that's for you guys, since I'm not doing music anymore except singing in the shower. You want to talk about what you guys got coming up? I mean, Adam, since you just got back and now your voice is with us. Did Dickies have any releases coming up?
Yeah, we're actually working on what our singer Leonard calls the last album. So we're working on
marketing technique.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they've been around for what, 44 years about now, and you know, the original guys are getting older, and I don't know if it's the touring or anything.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. Adam is gone. Okay. Well, so Spike.
That was a bit sudden.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
What do you have coming up?
Well, I've got my first shows coming up. I'm actually playing my first show, you know, in 18 months tomorrow. And that's a warm-up show because I am playing. There's a big, you know, like a heavy metal festival called Bloodstock over here that's happening next week.
Bloodstock?
Yeah. And I'm currently playing in a death metal band called Memoriam over here, which, you know, a bunch of musicians kind of, you know, we're all a similar age. We've all got histories playing with various people. And I used to play with a bass player in the band in the 80s called Sacrilege. And, you know, he's formed this band with a singer from another death metal band called bolt thrower. So they're on about their, well, I've just recorded their fourth album with them. You know, they've done 3 albums, and I recorded the fourth one, last, what you'd call fall, autumn. And we've been, you know, we've been scheduled to play, probably like Adam, throughout the whole thing, but it's obviously been just getting, that won't be happening. No, you won't be doing it December, nothing in January, look to March, nothing then, blah, blah, blah. And the first show is happening for me is this Saturday. But we've got a little warm-up show that I wanted to put in because I've never played live with them. So, you know, it was like, well, I don't fancy really my debut being, you know, at a bigger festival. I'd like to do something, at least in front of some people somewhere, you know, smaller before we do that. So that's happening this week.
Oh, that'll be nice.
So the band's called Memoriam. Yeah, the band's called Memoriam. And the album I've recorded with them is called To the End. Okay. So
they're definitely death metal. Memoriam.
They would call To the End, yeah. And what they call themselves old school death metal.
What does that mean?
Well, I guess it means it's rooted in kind of what, you know, must have been the sort of the beginnings of death metal, as in, I don't know, maybe it means that it's, you know, doesn't have so many blast beats, or maybe it's not meant to be, you know. To me, it sounds more like good quality thrash metal, but with a more extreme vocal approach, you know.
Right. Okay.
So, you know, if you like Slayer, or like, you know, like the bands you mentioned, like Anthrax, Slayer, you know, Metallica, along with Sepultura, you know, Creator, Celtic Frost. To me, it's kind of rooted in that. It's not in some ridiculously extreme form of it, you know. So maybe that's what the old school's referring to.
Okay.
I don't actually know, because I'm not very knowledgeable on death metal. It's a new genre for me, you know. So
when you're playing death metal, I mean, are you kind of like connecting it all with the lyrics and thinking about death?
Well, the thing is that the lyrics, Carl, the lyricist, you know, the singer and lyricist, he's kind of very much rooted in punk. So, you know, one of the things that we've connected with is that, you know, 2 of his favorite one of his favorite band is Killing Joke. Another favorite band of his is Crass. Now, you know, they're both very politicized lyrically, and I've played for both of them. Well, I played for Killing Joke, and I didn't play for Crass, but I played for Steve Ignorant of Crass, doing a Crass set of songs, you know, on the tour. So his lyrics, you know, they're not kind of all Dungeons and Dragons or, you know, anti-religion or anything. They're more of like, you know, politicized punk. It's just the vocal delivery and the musical style is death metal, you know. So it's funny, because even though I'm doing this death metal thing, it's very, you know, it feels very familiar with what I'm used to, you know, like a singer that's got something to say, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I get a little lost sometimes with the different distinctions of like, dark metal, black metal, math metal, you know.
I'm the same. So when they,
some of that's hard to distinguish.
It is. So when they, you know, like I got, you know, asked or invited to, you know, to do this album for them, which is what I was first asked. I was like, well, you're just going to have to send me it, because you explaining it to me, you know, I don't know, you know. So I was like, right, send me some, you know, just send me a couple of tunes. And the first tune that I heard, I thought, oh, okay, this kind of reminds me of, you know, what I like, and sort of, you know, like thrash metal. You know, there was no singing on it at that point. It was just demos of the tunes. And I sort of thought, okay, you know, there's a meeting point here, you know. You know, it's not like some weird extreme thing like, you know, we're all talking about here. I thought, yeah, you know, I've loved my thrash metal from, you know, back in the early days, and I still do. And I thought if I mix a little bit of Dave Lombardo and Neil Peart, which is what I did, I've got a nice little connection.
So So we're keeping it all in the family. This will
Yeah.
go well in the series.
Yeah. And if you hear the record and listen to it, you will hear those two drummers prominently straight away. So it's my interpretation of death metal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. There's so many. It's a bit like punk, isn't it? Now, you know, you've got so many, you know, sort of different genres. It's like sometimes it's a little bit hard to keep up with it, you know. And
yeah, I mean, relationship with a lot of the modern punk stuff that people call punk, where it just sounds like someone complaining about not getting an allowance to go like borrow their dad's car or whatever. And I'm like, come on, like, there has to be some real aggression and fighting society. Otherwise, I can't call it punk, but that's my own prejudice, I guess. But
yeah.
By the way, Adam, are you there? You look frozen to me, but I don't know if.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I had to jump back in and out a couple times, but I'm here.
Yeah, you're on my end. It's a good freeze frame. You look good. But
okay, good.
Okay, well, so maybe we'll sign off, and and I want to encourage, and we're gonna keep this recording and post it, and we'll give it to you guys to post. But and
okay.
Please watch Adventures of Power. Anyone who's watching this, and let's wait with bated breath for the last Dickies record. I don't believe it.
I think we should probably believe that statement.
We should.
I believe it. I think so. I believe it.
Haven't the UK subs gone down this road as well, where they said they were on their last
I believe
album?
so.
And I believe now they're recording a new album. I think the lockdown.
Well, I suggested to Leonard that we should name this last record Death, Taxes, and the Dickies. And I mean, I don't know if I don't think he'll bite, but I mean, that's kind of how I see it. And even though it seems like it's the last record, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll keep touring. As far as a record, I don't know. I kind of believe it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I'm on it.
Yeah, that's like a great achievement.
Good way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
So, well, so nice to meet you guys in person. I look forward to having a drink or a hello in the future. We will send this to you guys to repost. As for Antonio, he's, from TSOL to AWOL. So we'll change him. We'll change his band to AWOL.
AWOL. Yeah, that works.
That's the new name for the band. But yeah, if he wants to do this again sometime, it's easy enough. We can do another chat and then stitch them together. So,
well, I'm sure he will.
Really nice to meet you guys. Keep rocking, and see you out there in the land of drums, punk, metal, and Chinese pop.
And air drumming.
And air drumming.
Yeah, air drumming.
All you
Woo!
there, remember to air drum. Air drumming is where it all starts. I know this.
Yeah, man.
Talk to started as air before they started as air drummers before
they.
So.
And us too. Even we're real drummers, and when we're not drumming, guess what we're doing? We're air drumming, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's a great form of expression.
Yeah, it is. And if you've got any spare change, anyone, send it to MusiCares.org. It's a really great organization. Or just buy the movie a bunch of times on Vimeo, which is the same thing. Buy it.
That's right. What I'm gonna do.
Okay. All right. Well, keep faith. Nice to meet you guys. And we'll send you.
Likewise,
nice to meet you, man.
Likewise. See you about
really great.
Bye.
Take care.